Virgo, you feel it already, don't you? Anna here from Virgo. Mm. So, something in the air around your life changed recently and you cannot locate the source of it. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Please like and subscribe. Subscribe if your skin just registered something. Okay, so here we go. Virgo, the ocean floor shifted, miles below the surface. In the dark, where nothing visible lives, where the pressure is so absolute that the human body would not survive it, where the geology of the planet conducts its business without reference to anything happening above, down there, something moved. A plate, a ridge, an adjustment of mass so vast that its individual components are unmeasurable by any instrument available to the people living on the surface. And for a moment, for the specific, strange moment of the shift, the surface gave no indication, went about its ordinary weather, its ordinary waves. Its ordinary performance of being a surface, unchanged, unaware, offering no evidence of what had just reorganized itself beneath it. And then the wave came. Not immediately, not in the dramatic film score way of something that announces its own significance, slowly. Starting as barely a ripple at the point of origin, building as it crossed the distance, gathering the specific, terrible momentum of something that had miles of open water to accelerate across before it reached the shore. By the time anyone on the shore could see it, it was already too close to prepare for. The preparation had to happen before the visibility, before the evidence, before anything on the surface gave any indication at all that what was about to arrive had already been set in motion by something that happened in the unreachable dark. The floor shifted for you some time ago. You are at the point in the wave's crossing where the surface is still ordinary, still nothing visible. Still the familiar texture of your daily life, behaving exactly as it has been behaving, offering no dramatic sign, no cinematic signal that something is approaching that will permanently change the shore it hits. But the wave is crossing. The crossing cannot be stopped. The plate shifted. The physics are already determined. The momentum is already in the water. The only variable left is the shore, what it is made of, how it receives what arrives, whether it absorbs the energy or redirects it, or is reshaped by it in ways it could not have predicted before impact. No joke. The title says this, and the title means it. Not in the way of something that requires emphasis because the speaker suspects disbelief in the way of someone who has seen enough real things to know the difference between the kind of reading that is interesting and the kind of reading that is important, and wants to name the category clearly before proceeding. This is the second kind, the important kind, not because of the size of what is approaching, though the size is real, but because of its permanence. Because what is about to change in your life does not change back, does not go through the change and then return to the pre change configuration once the energy has passed. It stays changed. The shore is different after the wave. Some of what was there before is still there, rearranged. Some of what was there before is gone. Some things appear that were not there before, deposited by the wave, brought from elsewhere, placed on the shore by the very force that rearranged everything else. You do not get to keep the shore exactly as it is. This is the no joke part. This is what the preparation is for. What kind of change this is, not the change that happens to your circumstances. Those circumstances will be involved, will be visibly different in ways that other people can observe from the outside, will constitute the legible surface evidence of something that is actually happening at a much deeper level. Not primarily that. The change that is approaching is a change in what you understand yourself to be capable of receiving. This is the rarer category, the category of change that most people go an entire life without encountering, or that encounters them once and they do not recognize it as the category it belongs to because the external evidence of it looks too ordinary. Because it arrives not in an event, but in a realization. Not in a single moment of impact, but in the accumulation of something, a feeling, a knowing, an impossible to dismiss awareness that reaches the threshold of undeniable slowly and then all at once. You have been approaching the threshold. Through the months that preceded this, through the accumulation of experiences and reckonings and the slow, unglamorous, entirely invisible work of becoming someone whose container is larger than it was. Someone who has, through the specific combination of what they have survived and what they have chosen and what they have refused to stop wanting, even when wanting felt dangerous. Someone who has stretched the dimensions of their own interior to the point where something that could not previously be held can now be held, where something that would previously have overwhelmed the container can now be received without the container failing. You are at the threshold, and what the wave is carrying, what the plate shift set in motion in the unreachable dark, is exactly the thing that the expanded container has been made to hold. Love, the heart in the title. Let's not pass it. There is something arriving in the territory of love that has the quality of the wave of something whose origin point is further back than the moment of its visibility, that has been crossing the distance between its source and you for longer than the recent days, that carries the momentum of something that has had time and open water to build. Something in the love territory of your life has reached a specific point of pressure in someone, in the dynamic between you and that someone, in the accumulated and unspent and refusing to diminish energy of a connection that has been waiting for the conditions to become what it has always had the potential to become. The conditions have become those conditions, not because you manufactured them, not because you finally did the right thing or waited the right amount of time or positioned yourself correctly in relation to what was approaching. The conditions changed the way conditions change through the movement of large invisible forces that had nothing to do with the surface performance of any given day, through the shifting of plates in the deep, through the maturation of something that required a specific combination of time and readiness that has now been reached by both parties simultaneously, which is the rarest thing and the thing that produces the wave, both parties. At the same time, ready, that is the event. But there is the other dimension, always is. The wave does not carry only love into the territory it reshapes, it carries everything the love implies. The new configuration, the things that can no longer be maintained in the old configuration once the new one arrives, the relationships and arrangements and comfortable familiar distances that were appropriate to the pre-wave shore and that the post-wave shore simply cannot support in the same way because the shore itself is different, because what it can hold and what it cannot hold has changed in ways that will take time to fully map, but that are real from the moment of impact. Some things will need to move, not necessarily be discarded, moved, rearranged, placed in new relationship to each other by the force of what arrives. Some things will be easier to see after the wave has passed through objects on a cleared surface that were previously obscured by the clutter of the before. Some things will be deposited that were not there before. Some things will be revealed as never having been as solid as they appeared. This is not loss exactly. This is the wave doing what waves do, reorganizing the shore according to the physics of what arrived, without consulting the shore about its preferences, without asking which elements of the existing arrangement were sentimental and which were expendable. The wave is not sentimental. It is thorough. It is complete. And it leaves behind something that is, however disorienting in the immediate aftermath of the reorganization, more accurate than what it replaced, more corresponding to the actual terrain, more honest about what was solid and what was maintained by the collective agreement not to examine it too closely. The preparation, since the title insists on it, and the title is right to insist preparation is possible and it is worth doing, even when the specific form of what is approaching is not fully visible. Because preparation, in the context of a wave approaching, is not the construction of a seawall. Seawalls and waves have a long relationship, and the outcome is always the same. At sufficient scale, the wall holds until the wave is large enough, and then the wall does not hold, and everything behind it, which was depending on the wall for protection, is suddenly exposed to something it has not been trained to encounter directly. Protection is not preparation. Preparation is the clearing of the shore. The removal of what is in the way of a clear and honest reception of what is coming. The outdated arrangements that would complicate the new configuration if they were still present when it arrived. The stories about yourself and what you are allowed to receive that belong to the pre-wave person and will not serve the post-wave person. The convenient smallness, the habitual undersizing of your own expectations, the reflexive modesty about what you deserve, the practiced downgrading of hope before it can become exposed, that protects against disappointment, but also protects against the full arrival of what is approaching. The smallness is the seawall. Remove it, not recklessly, not by replacing appropriate humility with something brittle and defensive, but by examining what is actually modesty and what is actually scar tissue performing modesty. What is actually realistic expectation and what is actually the training of a person who was hurt by hoping too openly and has since made themselves into someone who does not hope too openly. The scar tissue is the seawall. It protects from the pain of disappointment. It also keeps the wave from landing fully. Let the wave land fully. Something specific is coming. Not everything at once, not the total reorganization of every dimension of your life in a single tidal event. Something specific um, in a specific territory through a specific person or development or convergence of things that have been moving toward this point from their separate origins. Something that, when it arrives, will be both completely surprising and entirely inevitable, will have the specific quality of something that, looking back, was clearly coming for a long time and was not visible before it arrived, because visibility requires proximity that precedes impact. You cannot see it yet. You can feel the change in pressure. The way the horizon looks slightly different than it did a week ago. The way certain things that seemed settled have acquired a faint quality of the not yet settled, as if the ground beneath them is anticipating something and communicating that anticipation through the soles of your feet before your eyes have registered any change in the surface. That change in pressure is the wave announcing itself from a distance, the still far away distance, but closing faster than the appearance of the surface suggests. No joke means this. It means that what is approaching is not a metaphor for something nice that might happen eventually if conditions improve. It is not the reading's way of affirming your general worthiness of good things. It is not comfort dressed in the language of imminence. It is the specific, honest, this is what the energy actually says, observation that something real and large and permanent in its effect is in motion in your life, and the motion is not reversible, and the arrival is not optional, and the shore is about to be different, and the difference is going to be significant. Significant in the way that requires the word to be used without qualification, without the usual hedging that softens significant into something that can be received, without the discomfort of actually believing it. Believe it. Not because belief makes it happen, the plate already shifted, the wave is already crossing. The belief is not a requirement for the physics. But because the shore that receives the wave in a state of belief is a different shore than the one that receives it in a state of protective disbelief. The shore that has cleared itself of the sea wall receives the full force of what arrives, the full reorganization, the full deposit of what the wave carried from its source to here, the full revelation of what the cleared surface makes visible, the full change. Your life is changing. Not possibly. Not if the right things happen. The plate shifted. The wave is crossing. Prepare the shore.